Hello there, Jason Gobbel, Chief Solutions Officer over here at Kite Technology Group. Just finished up part one of this really deep, really interesting and vital conversation about securing your data in a bring your own device type of world. Best practices for MDM and application management. Um, did run a bit long, but it was super insightful, super helpful. A lot of great questions, a lot of great content. If you haven't watched that part of the video, definitely watch that first. Did want to continue on with part two of that and really talk about the nuts and the bolts of these things. As I alluded to in part one, once you're comfortable with the philosophy, once you've got it down, you know what you want to accomplish, you know the types of devices you're talking about, you know the types of data that you're talking about. The nuts and the bolts, it's a pretty easy conversation. Once you understand them, you kind of know where you're going to land. My name's Jason Goebel. I'm Chief Solutions Officer here at Kite Technology Group. We're an IT service provider. We work exclusively with independent insurance agencies, from everything to Microsoft 365 deployments to fully managed IT services to agency management system workflows, development, um, implementations, things of that nature. So let's just dive right back into that conversation where we left off. MDM versus MAM. You're going to hear those terms a lot. MDM, MAM, sometimes called MAM. Mobile device management is a mechanism for managing the totality of everything that's on the device. The priority here is security and control, um, not not flexibility, nothing like that. This is best for corporate devices, devices that the employer owns. Um, you've got some unique features when you deploy in an MDM channel. You can completely lock, completely wipe and reset devices if they're lost or stolen, or an employee has ceased to become an employee for whatever reason. Um, a lot of great, strong controls. You can do it if the device is personally owned, but you, as the employee, would have to give over a lot of risk and stuff. And I typically don't see it happen, nor do I recommend it. Mobile application management, MAM, on the other end, prioritizes flexibility, maintains employee privacy. So these are awesome options. I see this being the more primary choice, especially when we're talking about bringing cell phones into the environment so I can check my emails remotely and things of that nature. This is the best solution for that type of situation. IT controls access to the data by way of an application, an Outlook app or something like that. It has zero visibility into the device. The only thing we can do as IT in this is ask the device to validate some things. Are you encrypted? Yes, awesome. Do you have a screen lock? Yes, awesome. We can set out the rules of engagement without piercing that veil of privacy. Um, so really good options there. Very clear. I mean, the pictures are pretty stark in terms of what we're doing. Are we prioritizing control over privacy? Or are we prioritizing flexibility over that level of control and security? It's give and take. Um, Good to think through. So continuing on a theme of clear of mud from our first part, let's pick that apart because um, there are options. There's a broad range of features and things that you can turn on, device policies, things like that. All the way down to no access, none at all, or limited access, accessing just through web browsers. You can go to portal.office.com and maybe check your email, but that's it. we're still eliminating devices from the equation altogether. So when we've made the decision to allow access, we're going to go with one of the two options, MDM or MAM. Um, so you've got some security policies, you've got some device policies. You can require some things with MAM. I like to require device encryption. Now, the vast majority of devices out there for years have come out of the box in an encrypted state and have required screen locks. So it's not a big ask here, but it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. In this type of situation where I've deployed MAM, I'm simply validating what was probably already there and put in place, not even for my benefit, but for the benefit of the device owner. But it allows me to check and verify. Those are the things I have to do for compliance reasons. But it does allow me to remote wipe only my data within the application, which is nice. Um, the personal data, the employee data, um, remains unharmed and unscathed in the process. MDM, you can go further. You can provide security policies. You can brick the whole thing. So good infographic to keep that thing in mind. So why do we choose managed devices versus applications? Of course, the obvious one, who owns the device and what's feasible, but when you're talking MDM, you're talking protecting the device. You're talking controlling the device, delivering absolute security and authority to the device. So you get a lot of oversight. You get a lot of security. You can block non-compliant devices from accessing. So if I'm an employee and I lose my phone and I go up to Verizon and I buy a new phone, I can't just immediately get to work. That's not how it works. I have to go through a process. So, again, not a lot of flexibility, but an awful lot of control. If you are a bank or something like that, this is probably the right play. If you do a lot with wealth management or severe financial data, credit unions, stuff like that, work a lot with federal governments, this might be the right play because it allows you to enforce policies that can mitigate data loss, malware, cyber threats. Really enhances the scope of your ecosystem. Now, mobile application management. This is managing the applications that can access. Practical application here is, if you have an iPhone, you probably like using the Mail app. It's got a lot of great features that integrate your work and your personal life, and it's just a really excellent delivery of email for you. That's awesome, but I can't control it. I can't separate the work and the life balance. So I go the route of Outlook. I choose the application. That's me, the employer. And then by way of that, you get your access. So I get my security, but you get your flexibility. You want to use the Mail app for your stuff? Awesome. Do your thing. I don't have to control it to be secure. So you can still be you in the system and we can play well together, which is awesome. So pros and cons of BYOD in and of itself, bringing your own device. Well, there's some cost savings by not providing company phones to your people. You do get some increased productivity and collaboration. A lot of folks like the convenience of being able to respond to an email without leaving the couch. That's great. It does have a positive effect of employee satisfaction. Scales well because I'm not spending $1,000 on a device every time I bring an employee on. So scales really well. It's really flexible. Now the downside is, like with anything, there are some increased security risks. Regulatory compliance, some of those things come into play. I need to have a certain level of visibility. I need to have a certain level of security. And there may be situations like I just mentioned, if you're working for a bank or something like that, where you just can't meet the bar. There's also the softer side, IT management complexity, where you've got a service desk, you've got a help desk full of folks. Um, if the employee can choose the device, they might bring an Android, they might bring a Pixel, they might bring a Samsung Galaxy, they might bring an iPhone with questions, needing some technical support. And now you have to support this platform. So you're going to need someone who knows iPhones really well and also Androids really well in at least their popular permutations, because not all Androids are created equally. The settings are in different places. So changing the exact same setting on Android device A versus Android device B might be a fundamentally different process. So documenting all those uh, things could slip through the cracks if you're not careful. So it's important to, even if you're allowing BYOD, to have some rules in terms of, yes, I'm going to allow this. No, I'm not going to allow that. You might find somebody who said, yeah, I got this great deal on this phone off of Amazon for $53, and I don't even know the brand name, but it runs Android. Can I use it? You might want to say no. My folks are trained to support on Pixels and Galaxies and things like that. So you might want to have a hard and fast rule. Buy any device you want, as long as it's in the Samsung family, we can support it. Something like that. So a lot of considerations to be had there. Now, the must-haves for implementing a bring your own device strategy in your agency. First and foremost, clearly established BYOD policies. What you can do, what you can't do, what you will do, what you won't do. Clear rules of engagement, clear transparency, where the data lives, where it doesn't live, what I have access to, what I don't have access to, both as the employer and as the employee. Bare minimum, you're going to have some form of MAM, some form of application management. We can't just allow these things in and be a free for all. Like, yeah, put your email on whatever you feel like putting it on. It's totally cool. Can't have that. Along with this is going to come with some specific security awareness training, because now we've blended a little bit of corporate, a little bit of personal, a little bit of compliance and regulation and data privacy, and all this stuff swirls into a big ball. So there's a level of care that we have to take when we're on this shared journey together. So security awareness training, very important. You're still going to have to monitor things and report on things. That's where a lot of the scariness and the visibility comes into. And yes, there are things I can see. I can see you're using an iPhone. I can see you just upgraded from a 12 to a 13 or from a 13 to a 14. So I am going to know some things that aren't necessarily personal about your situation if you're using your personal phone on our corporate environment. But there's an awful lot I'm not going to see. I'm not going to see your text messages. I'm not going to see your phone calls. I'm not going to see your Facebook or even your installed applications. Maybe there are some systems that might actually show you that. So very important to know what you're monitoring and know what you're seeing so that you can be transparent in that. You're going to have some robust security measures, encryption, screen locks. I strongly recommend some biometrics on the front end. Quick side note about biometrics. This is my personal device. I got some biometrics. When I put my fingerprint on it, this is not something that the company has access to. The profile stays on the device. They get no access to it. I'm not sharing my biometric data with them. I'm not giving them a copy. Popular misconception there. But we do need to have these security measures in place. So if I'm a guy who likes to live dangerously and screen locks are annoying and I just want to be able to pick up my phone and go, uh, there might be weird scenarios like that that are just an absolute non-starter. Or maybe I'm a guy that says, no, I just don't want you telling me what to do. Okay, well, maybe that's a non-starter too. So you might run into some situations like that. But if we're clear and concise and we're translating this stuff well, in full disclosure, it works really well. And ultimately what you're going to need to have is support and resources. So talk to your internal teams if you've got IT staff. Talk to your MSPs and be candid about it. How good are you guys at supporting iPads? What are your limitations? What about iPhones? What about Galaxies? You're gonna find that MSPs have a large variety of abilities and gaps when it comes to those things. So you may come to the conversation with your MSP. Your MSP might say, we primarily support iPhone users. We don't do a lot of whole lot of Android. So in your agency, it might make sense for you guys to say, hey, we support iPhones. We might allow Androids, but it's buyer beware. It's best effort. Or you might flat out say no, we can't do it. Not because it's security risk, but we just can't support them. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the documentation. Maybe we don't know how. And that's a problem to solve for another day. Perfectly fine. I suspect when it comes to your support and your resources, I suspect you're going to land on the same place most of us land on. iPhones are great and everybody uses them. Fully supportable. Samsung Galaxies are great and everybody uses them. Fully supportable. Google Pixels, awesome. If it's brand name, if it came from a reputable carrier, if T-Mobile's putting it out on the market, if Verizon's putting it out on the market, rest assured it's probably supportable. It probably checks all the boxes, probably in good shape. So that concludes part two. Do want to thank you for joining us. Do want to apologize for running so long on this thing, but as you can tell, it's a huge topic, super important, super nuanced, um, and it's really hard to get a firm understanding and a grounding at one time. This is a conversation I think that we revisit often, frequently, anytime things change. Good example of that is when iPhone partners with ChatGPT. Like, man, that might have some implications we need to revisit. Let's talk about that. So I encourage you not to ever consider this a done deal and a closed topic. Always be thinking about it. Always be thinking about the nuance of the employer-employee relationship and how we meet together and join forces and do good things together using these devices. So again, thanks for joining us. Big shout out to Big Eye for doing all that they do for as long as they've done it. Great folks, great organization. Agents Council for Technology. They're just out there doing the great work. Us at Kite Tech, we're always here. We love the questions. The advice is free all the time. Feel free to reach out. If you have any specific questions you want to talk about, something that might be unique to your agency or something that might be a little bit sensitive that you just don't want to put out in the public space. We're always here for you. Love to hear from you. Thanks a lot for joining us. Have an awesome day.